Hi, everybody. This is day 1437. 1437 days since Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. That's been confirmed, y'all. That's been confirmed by the U.S. government. And we still don't have his body. So that's, when he was murdered on Fort Bliss, why don't we have his body? And, you know, that's the big question. We want his remains. So let me go check to make sure that everything's working. Get it testing. There it is. Okay. So let's start. 1,437 days since Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. I can't tell that enough to everybody to understand July 2020 and what we have been through for almost 4 years now. And we're making huge strides, even though so many thought, we would never, ever even get the declaration of death. And we got it. We got it. And now, in that declaration of death is a confirmation that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we provided so much evidence that they only had one choice, and that choice was to declare Richard deceased. When they declared Richard's deceased and said it was on Fort Bliss and everything, all the paperwork says his death was on Fort Bliss, where's his remains? That automatically, there's no other choice but that Richard was murdered. So, if he's deceased on Fort Bliss, there's, 4 years later, and all the security, everything, there's no other choice but that Richard was murdered. And so, they are not going to flash lights for you. No, it took us this long to get where we are. And now, we have a huge message for Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. We have a huge message, and we have been attempting no less than 15 times to contact him to give him information on Leilani Hart. We shared with him her criminal record, which includes the notarized affidavit that she's confessing that her family is engaged in incest and child sexual assault and child pornography, and that there's immigration problems surrounding her, that illegal purchasing of weapons, and death threats in her family. And now that has been corroborated by what we recently obtained, our communications between Leilani Hart and James Courtney Hart on their long family history of incest and sexual assault or sexual child abuse. And it's pretty detailed, and it has everyone's names in it and all of that. So, we've tried to reach out to Bob Moore to give him even more information. We've reached out to Angela Kachurga to give her information. That she was so cold-blooded, y'all. She's just so cold-blooded. Um, she is, you know, they, in public, they have all this pretense that they're caring people. Um, but that's not what's going on. Okay? That is not what's going on. And, it reminds me of Little Dorrit by Dickens. There's a character in there called Gatsby. He's pretty wealthy, uh, a wealthy man that owns a lot of property, and he, acts like he's Santa Claus when he's in public, and behind the scenes, he's just a very wicked man. Um, yeah, that's what this, you know, really reminds me of. So we've reached out to Bob Moore, and so now we're going to do it on the live stream because we know he's watching the live stream. We know he watches it. He's been engaged with the criminal group instead of communicating with us. He has chosen to engage with Leilani Hart, a prime suspect in the murder of Richard, and her group, which includes Dallas Hart, her son, Richard's platoon leader, who is the prime suspect in the murder of Richard. Also with Belen Rocha. You know, I've I haven't really focused on Belen. Um, it's just not my nature to focus on someone like Belen. But she's being used as an unreliable source, and she's absolutely unreliable. And Bob knows, and this is clearly confirmed. And Bob Moore needs to know that that she's up to no good, that she's been up to no good, that the federal government absolutely confirmed that she was engaged in prostitution. Um, and, she's been arrested multiple times. Um, yeah, she is, when I talked to her, she knew all about all those illegal drugs. She knew all their little nicknames and everything. She knew it all. And, and wow, that was absolutely clear that she was also in the narcotics. Yeah, she was. She knew him. She knew him. So that's indicative of something, right? And of course, she's been arrested, which confirms all of that. Um, that she's up to no good. So she absolutely is involved with Leilani Hart and the adult sexual service industry. Absolutely. And Leilani Hart is in the adult sexual service industry. Okay. Um, so, all of these connections, and then Belen Rocha in the connection with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Danae Katzen. I mean, convicted criminal Danae. I mean, well, she's federally indicted. Federally indicted Danae Katzen. And, 3905 Bliss Avenue, which connects it to the Walmart mass shooting case. And, that's just a little piece of what we want to share with Bob Moore. The big news tonight, the breaking news tonight, are these illegally obtained records. The illegally obtained records that his criminal group, has been posting. And, part of that we've been comparing. And it is not a complete report. So, absolutely tampering with information. And the other thing that's clear on there's so much on there that we've reported. We've already reported, uh, this illegal activity. Okay, and I don't know why Bob Moore is digging his hole deeper. I mean, he's already in trouble with his 501c3, right? He's already in trouble with that. Um, he's already used unreliable sources multiple times, and of course he's a discredited journalist, absolutely discredited journalist. You know, when do you think that he would try to learn his lesson? You know, it just really shows you that he is um, targeting Richard's case. Why is he targeting Richard's case? Is it because it is connected to the Walmart case? It, is it because of the child trafficking? You know, child pornography. What's going to come out that they are so afraid of that they would risk? I mean, he's been totally discredited in my opinion with, cuddling up, I shouldn't say cuddle up, but associating with Lalani Hart, with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, with Belen Rocha. Why would he associate with Belen Rocha? She's up to no good, you know. And to use them as sources, those are unreliable sources, clearly. And now, um, I'm hoping that he didn't take these illegally obtained records from this group. Because, absolutely, in our opinion, Lydia Smith is Leilani Hart. The timing of everything and how the group rallied around her when she, first came to being, when we got the declaration of death, and she was like, "Oh, I'm new here. I'm new here. Just have patience with me." And then all of a sudden she becomes a site administrator, and everybody's like accepting that and rallying. Yeah, but she's lost credibility also. And of course, Bob Moore has lost credibility. He's a discredited journalist now. And so it must be something really big that they're covering up. And what is so bad about, there's several things, and I'll make a better list and post it. But one of the big things is they released a serial number of a weapon. They released a serial number of a weapon, and that's just a no-no. And we are a family that absolutely believes in self-defense, absolutely believes that you should have weapons, be allowed to carry weapons, pack weapons, right? Absolutely know how to shoot weapons, follow the law. Follow the law. Legally obtain the weapons and protect yourself. Absolutely. So, but to release serial numbers of a weapon, to even obtain serial numbers, to obtain a serial number from a weapon, you need to be, I believe, in Texas for sure. You have to be a law enforcement officer. You have to be in law enforcement, right, to obtain the serial number. They're not easy got. And then to release it. Somebody is impersonating a law enforcement officer, or someone is abusing their power. And they absolutely illegally released that, posted it. So, we want to give Bob Moore a tip, a very big tip. Do not delete your information. Do not delete your communications on how you got that illegally obtained, those obtained records. Do not tamper with evidence. Keep all of your communications. Keep everything, because we reported it. And, why Bob Moore does not want to communicate with the family that has, we're the ones that have all the information. Enough information, right? We're the ones that have it. More so, we've been made the investigators. We're the ones day in and day out. I don't know how much time we've put into this. Why he doesn't want to communicate with us to get a good story. Why he wants to participate with criminals that do criminal activities, that bring him into the criminal activities, to risk everything. And, so I'm just saying this is really bad what they've done, because that's just the tip of the iceberg on the information that they release. But that's a big one. That is a big chunk. So, Francis Valencia, what was the reason for them releasing? We issued a cease and desist on Bob Moore because he refused to respond to us. And instead of contacting us, and that's a very good question, Francis, instead of contacting us for and giving us the opportunity to comment on our son's announcement of his, the government declaring Richard murdered on Fort Bliss, because that's what that was, and letting Bob Moore know all the information that we gave them, and what why they had, because they were shocked. A lot of people were shocked with the declaration of death, but we weren't, because we're the ones that gave them all of the information. We were asked to provide information, and we did. We gave them a lot. And I've been telling people for a long time, we might not have 100% of everything, but we have enough. We have enough that absolutely the United States government had no choice but to declare Richard deceased, and that confirmed that he had been murdered on Fort Bliss. And Bob Moore should have contacted us. This is his business, right? Being a journalist. And here we are contacting him, letting him know that the CID report cannot be depended on, right? It cannot be depended on alone at all, because at the national level, the federal government absolutely confirmed that the CID report was tampered with, was unreliable. So, and we have the information. And so we reached out many, many times to Bob Moore, but even in our son's death, when we received the declaration of death, he would not respond to us. He would not get a comment from us, and he then fabricated. He then posted a false story. And when he posts a false story, other media outlets cover it. And that interferes. When false information gets out, it interferes in our son's capital murder case. And that's what this is. And the delay in getting our son's remains is because this breakaway group from the original emergency response team in Richard's case are up to no good. And we're having to deal with that. They're the group. They're the Leilani Hart, right? And there's more. And of course, the Dallas Hart. So it is very... It is curious. Why? What role did Bob Moore have in our son's case that he is acting so unreasonable? So, I mean, it's beneath that. He's acting criminally. He's acting like a criminal. And that's hurting the investigation of our son. Nothing negative has come out about Bob. Nothing negative has come out about Bob? Are you kidding me? Okay, let's talk about Leilani Hart. Let's talk about Belen Rocha. Let's talk about Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. Let's talk about Bill Hicks. Let's talk about Justin Underwood. His colluding with Justin Underwood and Bill Hicks to take down Yvonne Rosales. We have the open records. He's absolutely being investigated. Let's talk about the IRS, the 501c3 violations. Bob Moore is a discredited journalist. At best, he's a discredited journalist. And colluding and conspiring and working together with this group against the capital murder case of a whistleblower soldier that was whistleblowing on child trafficking. That's what he wants to tamper with. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I'm asking why Bob reporting on this, your son. From what I've heard, his news was on Business Local Entertainment. This is so left. No, he reported on Richard, on his notice of death, on his death report. And he reported a false story that interfered in the investigation of our son. So you might have to ask him for the reasoning behind that. He could have left it alone if he wanted to report on some business or whatever. But he didn't. He reported on Richard's case, and in such a way that interfered in it. So, thank you so much. And the whole thing with Belen, she has been confirmed by the federal government to be a prostitute. Okay? To be a prostitute. And she's been arrested multiple times. So, you cannot use Belen Rocha and try to get some honesty and try to, uh, I guess you could, but can you present that to the public as honest? I don't think so. She's called an unreliable source. And the same thing with Leilani Hart, because all they do is lie. And they lied to us. They lied over and over again. I can confirm that both of them are liars. And Danae Katzen is a liar. It's why I'm saying it's not something he has reported on. Yeah. Well, um, he reported on our son's case. Maybe he needs to do some reporting. Isn't that what he's in the business for? Why doesn't he do some reporting on Leilani Hart's family history of incest and child pornography? With her son being the prime suspect in the soldier whistleblower's murder case, right? Why doesn't he do reporting on that? That's a big story. Why doesn't he report on Belen Rocha? The truth of Belen Rocha. That she absolutely, if he would talk to us, we could tell him, and we could share the record. Because she's been absolutely confirmed a prostitute by the U.S. government. So, and being arrested multiple times. But no, he rather get illegally obtained records. He doesn't want to get legally obtained records. He wants to get illegally obtained records that have posted illegally. So that shows you that he has an intentional target out for Richard's case and for our family. Absolutely, he is a discredited journalist. Thank you, Danielle, for getting it, because um, he is not reporting on what he needs to be reporting on. It's kind of like this whole thing, and I'm don't want to bring a lot of everything is politics, right? But this whole thing with Biden, where once the public sees it, you have that force multiplier. They're all like, "Oh, we're shocked that he is not capable," and now they're just saying, "Oh, don't panic, he had a cold." Are you kidding me? They are just calling you know, they they're just like, "Ooh, this king has such beautiful clothes," and all along the king doesn't have a right mind. And the whole point is not really about Biden. It's really about how they will absolutely lie to you. Absolutely lie to you. And try to manipulate you and your thoughts and direct you in what you should do and how you should do it. And they'll do it with lies. And I'm telling you, Bob Moore is using unreliable sources. Unreliable sources. Leilani Hart is not reliable, and Belen Roach is not reliable. And so, yeah. And I wanted to say this too. We all know that Leilani Hart is a prime suspect in the murder of our son Richard. Belen is also a suspect in the murder of Richard. So why is Bob Moore using major suspects in the murder of Richard Halliday to run stories, right? And to get illegally obtained information from them. No, he uses his reporting to dissuade witnesses, in my opinion. Another way for public corruption, in my opinion. Yeah, and he's supposed to be 501c3, which is supposed to be neutral. And he's not neutral, y'all. Okay? So he needs to relinquish his tax-free status and then say who he is and be honest that he is an attack dog for a certain ideology, right? If he was honest about what his opinions are and what his purposes and goals are, then that would be a different thing. But he is, agreed to 501c3 status, and yet he doesn't abide by that. And then he commits crimes. This situation right now with the records, with the weapon serial number, that's illegal. That is huge illegal. So, just looked up Boleyn, and she has been arrested for possession of drugs and weapons. Oh yeah, she absolutely, clearly, thank you, Francis, absolutely is up to no good. So, and what kind of weapons? That must be illegal weapons. What kind of, and she knows her drugs, let me tell you. Because I was on the phone with her, and she had just turned 18. And I was like, whoa, she knows her, she knows, and she just, it rattled it off, rattled it. It was part of her being, those illegal drugs and everything about them. So, yes. And prostitution and drugs. And it seems, Richard was protesting using soldiers' monies, salaries on prostitution and narcotics. He was protesting that. And when you wrap your mind around that, it's like, okay, if Dallas Hart is the platoon leader and he's trying to make some money, is it like a requirement for that unit? Otherwise, you get bullied if you don't spend your money on prostitution and narcotics. What was the pressure? Because absolutely, Richard's protesting message indicated that the soldiers were pressured. So, we've been going through it, and you've got to go back and go through the things you went through initially, because it makes more sense after you get more information, right? So we're almost at 4 years, and I would say 5 years for Richard's case, because Richard's case came before August 13, 2019. August 3rd, 2019. So, yeah, Richard Halliday would rather burn his money. Absolutely. And what that meant is a protest. A protest on the soldier salaries being like expected for soldiers to finance this criminal activity, to be the customers of this criminal activity. that he was sending a message. And I think that that is really important to remember in all of this. And that they have, are trying to pick Belen Rocha as a source is absolutely crazy. Our message to Bob Moore is do not delete any of your communications, your information. Do not delete anything. Keep it. Because we've reported. So, Richard Halliday was most definitely protesting not to go along with their criminal activity. Richard was saying, hell no, and I'm not going along with these criminals. Exactly. He didn't want to play their game. He didn't want to go along with them. And that is very clear in everything. So, thank you so much. And that was just like a little tip of the iceberg on what we're finding out, because we have so much data and information that we're going through. And, with Leilani Hart being involved with the adult sex services industry, and then Belen being a confirmed prostitute, and then them knowing each other, and then Leilani Hart admitting having child pornography in her home, and Belen Rocha admitting on record that she was allowing herself to be filmed with multiple individuals in sexually explicit videos. And then them knowing each other. Richard reporting Belen to Child Protective Services. Leilani Hart having a long family history of child sexual abuse, child pornography. Yeah, there's a lot of things that, that they have in common. A lot of things that they have in common. And, yeah. I'll leave that for another day. But, I was going to talk about Lydia, but I'll leave that for another day. But thank you so much, everyone. Really, really powerful day. And yeah, we've been so busy putting in those complaints that we're getting somewhere. Because I think they're making big mistakes. They're not even small mistakes anymore. They are really big mistakes. I mean, to commit so many crimes, what they've done in the last couple days is, had to be all reported, and that's what we're doing. And so please report also. Now we, lay it all out in letters, but you can report it simply. Just report. This is what even the unjust judges, even the unjust system will work through it, and we're going to get justice. That we have come this far is a testament to what I'm saying is right. So we want Richard's remains, and we're working very hard to get Richard's remains. And this whole, and with Mexico, the Mexican officials, and with this new president in Mexico, things are also changing, which was very good. And So we absolutely want Richard's remains and want to know what happened in Mexico. How was the ball dropped? So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow. And I think I have all the questions, yeah, with these criminals, according to the video. Richard would rather burn, exactly, according to that video, absolutely, which was a way he protested, right? Richard Holiday was not most definitely protest. Oh, he was most definitely protesting, exactly. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for coming on, and I will be back